Okay, so welcome back. We're going to go on now and we're going to complete the assessment page. So first of all, I'll go over here and open it up for us. And there we have it. So basically the assessment page is going to be just a pretty simple, straightforward thing. And the first thing they're going to do is come on to here under a clear line and we're going to just simply type some text in that you'll find in the book. So I'll go on ahead and do that. I'll be back in a tick. Okay, so that's now typed in. Just go on to the next couple of lines, and this is where we're going to start our table. So you've got a couple of ways of doing this. You can actually just draw it in, or you can go to precisely. So let's go and see what I mean by that. So we're going to click on table, and this pops up. This doesn't actually fall into what we want. We actually want 8 by 3. So we're going to go into precisely instead. And in here you can actually tell it exactly what you want. So in here, what I would like in here, I'd actually like 8 rows. And in here I would like how many columns, and in this instance I want 3, and I'm going to leave it 100%, 100 pixels wide, in other words the whole distance. But I'm going to say percentage because it works better when you start to manipulate it. The border is actually set to 0, which means we wouldn't see a border, but for now I think I would prefer to see a border and then change it at will later on. So I'm going to change the border from 0 to 1. And again, we've done tables before when we created the area here for the links, etc., and again for the call to action areas. So this isn't the first time we've been here. So I'm going to now say OK, and here's our table. So at this point now, I'm going to actually type in all of my text, regardless of how it sits, regardless of how it looks, because that's by far the easiest way to do this. So I'm simply going to start filling in all the text in the different areas, so informatics module. Please don't concern yourself about this pushing over and backwards. You know from previous use of the table that this will sort itself out eventually. So I'm going to click into here. I'm going to put in course work, examination, and I'll be back in a tick when I filled in the rest of the text for us. Okay, so that's all the text in now. So remember, if I wanted to size this table, I could go back to table, make sure you select the table tab, and this just tells us what's going on with the table currently. In other words, it's 8 by 3, there's one border and a spacing and padding of 2, 2. This is pretty normal. I'm going to leave it like that for now because I'm actually going to just simply go out and I'm just going to manipulate it in this instance like so. So I'm just simply going to bring it in like so, in again, until I'm happy enough with it. So if I wanted that table now to be in the center, I would have to go back to my table, back to table, and back here to alignment, and I'm going to tell it to go to the center and apply, and it will put the table to the center. Now the one thing I do find with KompoZer is if you do any work with this, it has a tendency of jumping backwards to the left, etc. So you might have to go in there a couple of times to put it back in. Okay, so that's only one way of editing it, but please experiment with all the other ways. The other type of alignment I could do, I could actually do it actually on the screen here. So if I wanted all of this to be in the center, I'm just going to highlight all of this, just simply use my center icon up here, and that will do that also just as easily. But again, if you do want the table, you have to go into the table, unfortunately. All right, so just to remember that, to go to table, and go to table and to alignment as we just did. Okay, so I'm going to format this now, but I'm going to keep this simple the way I'm going to format it. I'm just simply going to highlight these two cells here, and I'm going to click on this B to bold it. I'm going to highlight semester 1, I'm going to bold it from here as well, and semester 2, and bold it from here as well. Again, it doesn't always have to be the hard way or going into code all the time. The next thing I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to change this to be slightly larger, and I'm going to make sure that it's going to be nice and centered right across. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to merge these three cells to become one. So I'm going to highlight these three cells together. I'm going to right click on this. What I'm going to say is I'm going to say join selected cells. So I'm going to click on that, and as you can see, that's entered. I'm going to center that now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this a lot bigger. So I'm going to use my increase font size until I'm happy enough with it. So I think I'll stop there, and I think I'll also bold it. And just click away to see what it looks like. Yep, that's fine. You can also add colour into the table itself. If you went to highlight all of it, again, you could actually go back to table, make sure you're on the table, and you could go to background colour this way. But I don't particularly want to colour in the whole of the table. What I would like to do is just colour in this particular cell. So I'm just going to make sure I'm actually in that cell there. I'm going to go to table, but this time making sure that just the cell tab is to the fore, and I'm going to go to the background colour here, clicking into here. This will bring me to the colour area, and I can choose what colour I want to put in here. I think I'm going to choose that, just to keep it in line with the blues maybe. And I might actually choose that, it seems a little bit nicer. I'm just going to say OK and apply, and you can see here on the sample that this now has changed to that colour, and I'm going to say now OK to that. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Let's just save it quite quickly so we can move on with a degree of comfort. The last thing I'm going to do here for this particular table is I'm going to change the border and how it looks. If we actually just take this out now to see what it looks like currently, it looks like so. And I'm not a particular fan of this white line here. I'd like just a pretty straightforward line. So let's go back again into KompoZer. And we're back in KompoZer now. I'm going to change this type of line, this padded type line, to a single line, a very straight line, and maybe into the colour blue. So we need to go back up to the table. We need to make sure that the table tab is to the fore. We're going to leave the border at 1. We're going to change the spacing. The spacing is that white area between the lines that you can see basically. We're going to change that to 0. I'm going to go to the advanced edit, and the attribute I want in here is border colour. So typing it in, again no spaces, and it is American spelling of the word colour, and the value that I want in this instance is blue. You could actually use hexadecimal colours, the codes, if you know them. They work just as well. I'm going to say OK to this. I'm going to apply it. And as you can see, it's jumped back to the left that I told you it has a habit of doing. That's not an issue. Just change it back to the center, apply it again, and OK. That's looking good. I'm going to save it, back out to the browser to make sure it's looking good. And yes, it is. So that brings us to the end of inserting a simple table into the actual page of a website itself.